Okay, so I'd like to formally introduce Linda Holiday Sensei from Aikido of Santa Cruz. Um, Linda, would you like to briefly tell us your Aikido history in terms of when you started, your main influences, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, um, it's quite a challenge to talk briefly about my Aikido history. Yeah, it's been exactly 50 years now. I
Wow.
started in the
Whew.
fall of 1970 when I was a first year student at the University of California here in Santa Cruz. And I am grateful for the fact that there was Aikido here. There was hardly any Aikido anywhere in California at that point, but there was a Robert Frazier sensei who he started Aikido classes the year before, 1969. He was a professor at the university and he had studied with O Sensei.
So
So,
what was your motivation that took you onto the mat? What was it that first made you step on?
well, it wasn't anything very big, You could say it was
Mm.
just kind of fate because I had met someone who said the word Aikido and indicated it was some kind of self-defense that was, more peaceful, less violent than some of the other methods that appealed to me. But the other thing is, my college where had just started as an art student, art and music student, they had a requirement. You had to take a class that you thought that you had never done before and that you thought you would be bad at.
Mhm.
So, and what a wonderful requirement, for someone who's studying the creative arts, right? So I took Aikido because there it was. I thought I'd be bad at it. And I do feel like I'm like a slow learner, I'm just determined.
I know exactly what you mean. So you stepped on the mat, and at some point you decided, "Hey, I'll go to Japan." Which was quite a big step. So what led to that?
Again, it was, I feel like I've just sort of followed a path. I didn't have like a big goal. The big goals have appeared. It's been more of an organic process to feel like, oh, I feel like I'm on a big path and I love having this sense of, service, the big feelings now. But at the time, I had a friend who was a fellow student in Aikido, and he said, "I'm going to go to Japan," and I thought, "You can do that?" I had no idea that was really even possible. No one in my family had ever traveled anywhere, and here was someone who just said, "I'm going to go to Japan, train there." So we went together. I just said, "I'm going too." and uh, but then what I discovered over there was just, I mean, I had been very inspired by Aikido in California and particularly by all the teachings of O Sensei and also the experience in my own body and mind of these possibilities that I just didn't know existed. The kind of strength that was not physical, the experience of ki, all of these things that I was just inspired and surprised to find this potential even in me. So that I was very inspired, but I didn't think I'd go to Japan, and no, I had never considered that. But then there I was going with a friend, and I thought it'd just be a couple of months, something interesting, but it turned out to be amazing, and deep and life transforming, and particularly the teachers really that I met there, many of them, but also especially in the Kumano with Hikitsuchi Sensei and Ano Sensei, and the teachers there that just really inspired me with their sense of deep practice that was both physical and spiritual, and dare I say the gratitude that I felt that they all kind of embodied the sense of gratitude for everything, for Aikido, for O Sensei, and for the path.
So was that sort of something that was emphasized in the practice
Mm.
even in those very early days for you?
Yes. Uh, Yeah, as part of this kind of bigger, you could say bigger in the sense of comparing it to the sense of Aikido as a set of techniques, like techniques that you can do to for self-defense or to kind of control someone else who might be attacking you. Um, so that bigger sense of practice was always there. I have to say it was there before I went to Japan. I just felt it in a really deep, powerful way when I went to Japan and trained there. It was just 4 years after O-sensei died. Everybody was very fresh with it. But the bigger sense, of training was there from the beginning with the teachings of O-sensei and what Bob Frazier taught. Also, I know you have a long background, many people do, with the lineage, through Koichi Tohei Sensei. Well, that's actually how I started too in Santa Cruz. That was not only that, but that was really a big emphasis. So we were always thinking of mind and body and not just physical technique. But in Japan, it was really formative for me and really inspiring, and there was a sense of gratitude and spoken about, the cultivation of gratitude.
Okay.
Um, every morning Hikitsuchi Sensei, well, when Hikitsuchi Sensei was there in the morning, he would always do like these ceremonies, the chanting ceremonies. And I didn't understand what it was, but I could feel there was this tremendous sense of spirit and gratitude. And he would speak of O-sensei with such love and gratitude, and also speak of gratitude for life and gratitude for nature. um, Ano Sensei, my most primary teacher, as many of you know who've practiced with him or read the book that I wrote of his teachings, he really emphasizes gratitude. It is central to his practice. It has become more and more that way over the years. So sometimes when he's come here to Santa Cruz and he's been teaching in the Santa Cruz retreat, he's teaching, he's just filled with this spirit. You can feel it. And then he wants us to just embody gratitude, say it out loud, be grateful for your partners. And he's doing these huge techniques saying kansha, which is gratitude. So, it sounds kind of silly if you just think of the words, but the feeling of it is pretty amazing. So yes, that started early on, but I think it has grown over the years.
Okay. I kind of feel that we're missing a lot of the story, but as we're here to talk about gratitude and you've launched into it so well, I feel I've got to pursue that. Not that that's a problem at all. So a large part of the Aikido community, I think, would say gratitude. What has that got to do with Aikido? This is bullshit, putting it bluntly. I don't think they get it at all. So why do you think why does it relate to Aikido?
Well, it's even people who maybe on an intellectual level might be dismissive, or they focus on Nikkyo, which I love too, all the practice of Aikido I love. But even people who might be dismissive on an intellectual level feel something in practice. And also you think about it, the forms of cultivating gratitude are all there in the practice, even just from the bowing and thanking. Like, isn't that just woven into the traditional practice of Aikido? Unless you've like given all of that up, which I think is very rare in the Aikido world. You start always with the bow, or a gesture of respect and gratitude. You bow to each other, and even if you're not thinking about it that much, it starts to transform your consciousness. So there's a kind of thread, you could say. I think even for people who aren't, like I say, don't have that as an intellectual concept about Aikido, I think there's something that's interwoven in the practice there, even in the most simple ways. And in fact, I think it's best when it's simple. It's not so theoretical. It's gratitude is. I wanted to say, gratitude, as you all know, it's an emotion, right? It's a feeling. you could say it's an experience. It like comes upon you like inspiration. You don't plan necessarily to feel gratitude, but there it is. It like wells up, and sometimes at the most unexpected times, right in the middle of difficult times, gratitude comes. So it's in that way, it's like a received experience. But the other thing about gratitude, so yeah, I'm just launching into it here,
Just
is
go
that
for it.
my feeling about it is that it's a practice, right? Gratitude's a practice. Like gratitude is something we cultivate and strengthen. So it's both intentional and unintentional, and receptive, is both active and receptive.
Okay,
And I
I think
think,
you've made a very nice point there, that there's kind of unintentional gratitude in the sense that, and I think you're right in pointing out that in all dojos, you bow to the teacher, and that is a sign of respect and hopefully gratitude for the teacher having students and the students having a teacher.
well,
Uh,
you bow to your partners,
yeah, and you bow to your partners and you bow to the,
and everybody bows to the representation of Aikido.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, where a lot of people park that. And then when they get into the practice, I don't think gratitude's the first thing in their head. But for you, as an intentional practice of gratitude, it clearly has a much greater meaning and a much bigger impact on the way you practice. And I'd like to explore how you feel it's impacted on the nature of your practice.
Hmm. There's I think that like Aikido, the practice of Aikido itself. I mean, if we look at what O Sensei said about it, you know, it's supposed to be transformative. There's something that's supposed to change, in us. It's not, and for the better. It's not, just something we do or
Yeah.
just something we do to somebody else. It's transformative. It's supposed to be transformative on a deep level. And I think people feel this again, whether it's like an intellectual concept or not. You know, we feel that there are some shifts in how we experience things, how how we experience our partners, how do we experience an attack, just in terms of like practice on the mat. Well, we're dealing with attack defense. You can feel completely separate, you can be acting upon another, you can be scared, all these things that are oppositional, right? And there's a fundamental shift in Aikido practice that turns this oppositional duo, into a unit, into something that is in harmony, and where there is a possibility for resolution, and a peaceful resolution, a constructive resolution of conflict, you could say. So that's like a fundamental shift, and that's what's supposed to happen. Like if you do Aikido technique and you force it on somebody else, like the Aikido hasn't happened, right? That fundamental shift hasn't happened. And so something fundamental has to change in us in order for there to be a fundamental shift in the interactional, the technique, you could say, just speaking to your sense of like, how does it work? Where's gratitude? Well, gratitude is transformative. Gratitude is a transformative feeling, and it's a transformative practice. So for instance, like Ano Sensei said just recently, he said, don't just throw your partner, be grateful for them. Like that's fundamentally different. And that also affects what you do to them, how you do it, the feeling that you do it with, and the effect of what you're doing together. So there's so I feel like all the reminders, like this is not easy. It's just very beneficial, right? To as we're on the mat, and in also you could take that off the mat just into any difficult circumstances, kind of challenges that we're facing. Anybody facing challenges these days, right? So so to have a practice inside where you're touching that deeper place, where you're grateful to be alive, you're grateful for air, and then you find your practice is to find a way to include other people in your gratitude, even when it's difficult. It's transformative, isn't it? Something shifts. And so anyway, I just want to emphasize that aspect, that it's not just like, I think I'm going to feel good right now. I think I'm going to feel good about this. I'm going to find some way of feeling good about what's happening. It's a deeper practice. And and then let me just say too that I feel like, to actually try to reach for that deeper practice, well, there's a lot of ways to do that. And some of them are just incredibly simple, or like right there for us all the time. To find something, like start anywhere, something you're grateful for, like leads to, it's like an opening, in my heart and spirit. Then I start to be able to have access to that more open-hearted feeling about other things.
I was going to say that it's not just about the transformation on the mat, it's about who you are off it too. And I know that you've had a lot of chance to practice gratitude recently, with a lot of challenges going on in California, the fires,
Yeah.
the COVID, the political situation. What's that taught you?
It's essential to have a practice. That's what it's taught me. It's essential to have a practice. And you could say a practice of gratitude, that's part of it. It's essential to have a practice. It's, I think, probably some of you know Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher, international Buddhist teacher. Um, I can't remember the exact quote I was reading recently, something he wrote that, like, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of political chaos right now and political struggles, right, especially in the United States. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who is both a spiritual teacher and he's done a lot of political activism, he said political activists need to have a spiritual practice. You absolutely have to have something that feeds your spirit and that gives you strength, so we're able then to deal better in a more constructive way, and also just stay true to yourself in the midst of these huge challenges, that, I mean, just to transform that right now into what we're in right now, huge challenges, like everywhere. So it's essential to have a practice. I feel like I'm just drawing on my practice like every day, and I need it. And I'm so grateful to have a practice.
We're all looking to extend our boundaries. Have your boundaries been extended of late?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think we're all looking to grow. So, I mean, if there's a practice of gratitude, you want to become ever more grateful for and experience it, whatever comes your way. And you have had a lot of bad things come your way in California recently. So and at your dojo, and personally, because what affects your dojo affects you.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been very challenged in this practice of gratitude. And do you feel that you've grown through because you've had this practice to fall back on?
Well, I hope so. I don't know if I can make any claims that way. I feel like, with all the challenges, I feel like my practice has become very fundamental. I feel like I can't sort of reach
Sure.
big. What I'm doing is reaching deep and coming back to my practice over and over with a sense of real need. So in this recent period of time with the fires in California, so on top of the pandemic, the shutdowns, the loss of Aikido, the incredible political chaos and problems we're having, then California was on fire, right? And like everywhere, it seemed like, and also very close to my house. And the air became, for long periods of time, was not just smoky, it was dangerous to breathe it. And I actually have weak lungs, I have asthma, and, so it's, even for me personally, it's just really, really hard and I'm in my house and I have my little air purifier, that doesn't really, anyway, it's so, and it's just, that's really just a symbol of like how everything's piling on for everybody right now. But,
Sure.
um, so it's not that I could say, oh, I'm fine with this because I'm grateful. Like that isn't the way it works for me. I but my practice of Aikido and my practice of gratitude would just bring me down to a level of I am grateful to have a house. I'm grateful that my house is not burned up. I am grateful I have people in my life who support me. I'm grateful for air. I'm grateful that it will get better. And that just helps me in the moment. It helps me day to day.
I,
So I hope that, and I actually have a fair amount of faith about this, that all of the deep practice that we're all doing right now is actually now kind of invisibly creating a greater capacity in me and in us um, for going through our lives in a good way, and for being connected with people and being grateful, for that, opening the heart more. I hope so. But right now, really, it's not like what have I accomplished with this. It's
sure. Now, it's
it's
an
how
unfair question, really. It's impossible to judge. But I wonder if it's changed. Nevertheless, what you said was wonderful and illuminating. Do you think it will change your teaching when you get back to the mat?
do you think the experience of coming through these things
Yes.
change my teaching?
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. Yeah, it's changing it now, certainly. And I guess one of the things that is changing now, I wouldn't say it's like totally different, but I feel different matter of degree, is actually how grateful I feel for the people who show up. Like, just, I'm looking at my screen here and seeing everybody, and I feel actually a lot of gratitude for just being here with everyone. I'm in my house. I'm grateful to have a house, but I live alone, and my dojo is shut. And I do get together with people from time to time. We have masks on, we're social distanced, we don't know what's going to happen. And so, in the midst of all that, I am really grateful for people, for that connection. And so, when people show up, on Zoom, or like I'm teaching 2 outdoor classes a week, when people from my dojo, who I rarely see these days, they show up for practice, I feel amazingly grateful. And I, of course, um, hope that my capacity for that feeling will stay. But I'll have to renew it. We all have to renew these things. That's the practice.
Yeah. Um, I want to go back to how we're here to talk about the practice of gratitude. So I'm interested to know how you bring that into your dojo. But before we do that, I personally think you've made a pretty good case for showing why gratitude is part of that transformational process. But I'd like to open the mics up and just see if anybody have any questions at this point. Would that kind of work for people? Okay, so let me just open up the mics and see if people have got anything to say. Oops. Unmute all. Okay, I'll put you back into gallery view so I can actually see what's going on. So has anybody got a question at this point? Luke.
Yeah, hi Linda. Really nice to finally have you on Zoom and just to contact with you. It's great. I feel very privileged. I'm just interested in I love you talking about gratitude and that moment where you talk about the when you've got the uke and you're grateful. Don't just throw the uke. Be grateful for the uke. Have you noticed anything about actually when you're accessing that gratitude in practice, how it benefits your practice? Or there any connection there?
When I'm accessing the gratitude in my practice, well, first I would just say whenever I can, because it's because there's a lot to think about and there's a lot to do. So the hope is that, in this I'm sort of drawing upon the teachings of Ano Sensei, my teacher. The hope is that if we kind of call upon and remember gratitude when we can, then it will be there for us more when we're not thinking about it, right? Because we can be very intentional about, like, okay, I'm going to throw my partner here with a sense of gratitude, right? Which means I'm not like that. I'm offering some really positive energy in an open-hearted and loving way at, let's say at the end.
And does that affect does that have a sort of an energetic effect on what's going on in the exchange?
Absolutely.
And how would you describe that?
Well, I feel it's really analogous to the physical practice. When we're doing the physical practice, it's the same, or it's analogous. You could think of it as any interactive practice, the feeling of it. So for instance, if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm very oppositional, I'm kind of resentful and demanding, and I'm angry, that has a certain, that will bring out, a certain feeling between us. And let's say I started the conversation though with thanking you for, for being here, and thanking you for what you did last week when we did such and such, that establishes a connection that then allows usually something better to grow out of that. And we are able to work together, right? And that's actually something I specifically learned in Japan when I lived there. In their language and their culture, they have a thing where they always, when you see, in the traditional culture anyway, when you see someone and you always thank them for whatever happened the last time you saw them. And they have a little phrase. I learned a little phrase when I lived there. It's konaida domo. It's like so short. It's like, well, thank you for what you did when I saw you last. Any rate, I'm just saying, when you start an interaction with a sense of gratitude and appreciation, you actually express or somehow extend that sense of appreciation, then things go in a way after that where you're able to work together more. So like from the beginning, that's why I was saying, like, when we bow to our partners, that starts things off, well. And so if you think about Aikido techniques as examples of how we can work together rather than cancel out each other's energy, right? Rather than being against each other, the working together, anytime we remember the sense of appreciation, that allows space, right, for our partners to be partners rather than enemies, or obstacles. So I think that allows the blend, to happen.
I have to point out that Luke has written a few books on verbal Aikido, so the example you gave him would have gone down very well.
Yeah, that's perfect.
and it's exactly what he would be. I mean, I practice with him most weeks.
I didn't mention conversation at all. And
I practice with him most weeks, and he would start with, "Thank you very much for telling me that." That would be very typical of where he would go with that. So
exactly. Or like when somebody, I could think of many conversations with people close to me, who've come with some sharp criticism or something like that. And my gratitude practice and my pragmatic gratitude practice is just to take a breath and say, thank you for that feedback. Like, even if I don't agree with it, right? Or I'm feeling defensive, my defensive reaction, I'm protecting myself, but to just go into the practice and just think, okay, let me find that place. Thank you for the feedback. Like, that's where we can start, to work together. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it occurs to me that, if you genuinely respect your partner who you're practicing with, and you're grateful for them being there, you tend to take care of the things that you're grateful and think are precious. So you don't have to think about gratitude. It just engenders you to look after them and make sure that they're there for the next attack, the next bit of practice.
Yeah. Boy, we need our partners. to practice.
We sure
And
do.
then there's the really there's the super hard places. It's always a challenge, when you feel like somebody's really attacking you or doing something terrible, or they're wrecking your city or something like that. I mean, it's just very challenging. But anyway, I try to get as simple, kind of simple and fundamental as possible. Just try to get to a better place in myself, then I can deal better with things. Ano Sensei is always saying gratitude, for air, for water, for sunlight, gratitude for life. You could just sort of, boy, after the first day we had better air in Santa Cruz after all those fires, I couldn't believe the intensity of the sense of gratitude for being able to go out of my house and breathe the air and not be trying to protect myself from it. So wonderful. I really think gratitude is one of the most powerful emotions we have as humans. Gratitude and love.
Yep. When one of the most fundamental things of life is taken away from you, good air, that's a good challenge. To still find gratitude.
Well, but also gratitude. Well, this is not only Ano Sensei who said this, but he said this one time. Gratitude is born of scarcity. Gratitude is born of scarcity, and I think we always experience this in disasters, and when someone's been injured or something. There's this feeling of gratitude, both that it wasn't worse. Like gratitude that you're alive, even though you just, like one of my friends just had this huge motorcycle accident. He's been in the hospital. He's having a lot of surgeries. He's grateful for being alive, And then there's the gratitude for the kindness that comes from people in these hard circumstances, right? So the gratitude actually comes out of adversity too.
Yes. Any other questions before we go back to how Linda builds the practice of gratitude into her Aikido?
I would love to hear from you.
What would you like to hear from me?
Anyone?
Brenton?
Liz?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I can hear you.
Wait, where
Few
is
problems
she?
with these tablets today.
Oh,
Hello.
okay. Hi.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much for everything you've shared today. So thank you. I'm very grateful for that, because it's just so important. And I found myself thinking that gratitude, it drives, it is the oil that drives our human societies, isn't it? One of the very first things that I was taught as a very small child, along with most people, is to say please and thank you. It is so fundamental to us, and I think sometimes the distractions of life do take us away from that. And when we come back to the importance of gratitude, then we find out how important it actually is.
Might just explain why the world's not working quite as well as it is, because there isn't enough gratitude. Just a thought. Anybody else?
I think it is a really interesting, well, it's not an interesting concept, it's a fundamental concept, Linda, and I totally agree with you. And where I live, and I literally will get up in the morning, I'll look out across the valley and just say thank you, that I'm so lucky to live where I live. And I really appreciate that quote from Ano Sensei about scarcity, but sometimes it's difficult to be grateful for what is not scarce, and where I live is not scarce, but actually I'm really grateful for where I live and the air that I breathe, because it's beautifully pure. The fern grows in the trees, and that's a sign of pure air. So sometimes I think people take everything for granted, and actually they should be grateful for what is there. And the water out of the tap, if we didn't have the water out of the tap, you wouldn't be living. And people always moan when it rains, and I go, it's fantastic, it's watering the garden, thank you, that's great. So I agree completely with you.
Dimitra.
Yeah. So it comes like we feel gratitude with abundance, and we also feel gratitude with scarcity. It's very interesting. Yeah. Dimitra.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and I was really touched by the way you explained it, and you live gratitude and experience it, and gratitude, apart from being a very, very strong emotion, it we found it totally changes our energy field. It totally changes our center, and it totally changes our inner space and outer space. So the feeling of gratitude immediately opens up our inner space and the way we perceive the space around us and the space around our partner or the people around us. So there is an expansion of space all of a sudden with the feeling of gratitude. And this allows for a better understanding of the situation. This allows of a better handling of the situation with the other people and with our partner in Aikido. And it gives a pause that prevents us from reacting. It gives an inner pause and time to connect with something higher than just reacting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just it's one of the strongest emotions in human beings we can have, and thank you for emphasizing this.
So a question for you, Demetria. So Demetria does Tai Chi as well as Aikido, and she has a rather wonderful Tai Chi teacher who we've had on these sessions. Is it central to his teaching too?
Totally. He would totally agree with Linda on that. Totally. Yes. Gratitude. And I think that, like in Aikido, when we start to practice with bowing in front of each other and in front of the partner, if the bow is really authentic,
Mm-hmm.
then the gratitude is just there. So if the other person in front of you is just there for you to practice, how can you not have gratitude for that person?
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, please.
Go on, Steve.
You can hear me?
We can.
Oh.
Yes.
When I think of gratitude, I always think of it as if you've got your palm downwards, you don't feel joyous and gratified and full of gratitude as if you had your palms open and upwards, meaning that you can feel the gratitude more when the palms are upward and towards your partner than you do with your hand down. Now, I don't know if anyone tried that, but that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I agree with Steve.
And I just wondered how Linda felt about that.
Well, I don't know, Steve, if you're aware, but my teacher Ano Sensei has made this a practice for about the last almost 20 years. He's been doing that particular thing. He decided that he wanted to change many of his techniques, and particularly Irimi Nage, which, as you all know, is, a very common ending for Irimi Nage. That upper arm, the hand is spiraling, and the thumb is down. And he decided that he wanted to express gratitude at the end. And so this is, with the palm up is more common with Kokyu Nage. I don't know what terms you use, but anyway, he cultivated in himself, he changed the forms of his practice to keep the palm up at the end, because he wanted to instill in himself this sense of gratitude.
Because you're open.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's a very powerful practice. I wouldn't, like, that's not the only thing to do with your practice, but it's a powerful practice to embody that sense of openness and gratitude physically. So, so Ano Sensei, you can't see this, Steve, but Ano Sensei will bring his partner around, and then rather than turning the hands down there, he just keeps them up, and you can feel it because he's been working on this now for years. The feeling coming out of him at the end there is something that, like, everybody wants to be a part of. You just want to run up and be uke. Yeah. So it is a wonderful practice, and something that I've done also with him. Yeah, thank you for bringing that out. And I think that like there's these like simple, you could say simple, it's not simple to do, but I really love it when there are methods. We can work on things. So it's not just like, I wish I felt more grateful right now, but well, what can I do? What's a little step that I can do? I can, do these physical movements. For me, I have a few different gratitude practices I just go to all the time, so for instance, I write and I journal. And a lot of times I will just do a gratitude journal. And I don't want to put this forward as like hearts and flowers. It's like, I need to, this is like a very pragmatic thing that I do. Maybe I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, I can't take this anymore. I mean, sometimes it just feels that way. So then I do like a gratitude practice and start anywhere. I write it down. And then the great thing about having a gratitude journal, you can just say, I'm grateful to be alive right now. I'm grateful that I have food in my kitchen, just things like that. And then it leads one after the other. But the other thing that's great about doing a gratitude journal, actually writing it down, you can read it again because it's there. That's like, okay, the next day you wake up and things are depressing and the pandemic is still going on. Maybe you can't write it down, but you can pull out your gratitude journal and read it and it helps you, things like that.
So what else do you do? You said you had several practices.
Oh, well, I chant. I have a chanting practice that I was taught, almost 50 years ago in Japan. And chanting it's a beautiful practice, and it's actually supposed to generate a sense of gratitude and awe. And I find that it does. So I chant some of the more complex, like the Norito and the Buddhist sutras, but I also chant some kototama, like just syllable chanting, where you're just into this very pure sound. And it's particularly powerful, though you can do it anywhere. It's particularly powerful outside. So you're tapping into, you're opening to the kind of pure energy of nature. And that's what sustains all of us. So I chant, I write, I talk to myself. I try to express gratitude to other people regularly. And yeah.
Yeah, I won't forget you tree hugging when you were in Cambridge. That was part of your gratitude practice.
Yeah. I've been doing, just parenthetically here, I've been doing more misogi practice.
I was going to wonder if you were going to mention that.
Really, I've been doing classic misogi practice in more than I have for decades. Like I've been doing cold water misogi, the classical cold water misogi that the Japanese people have done for many years and centuries, and of course people do in other parts of the world as well. But when I was young and in Japan, I was introduced to cold water misogi, and Ano Sensei, introduced me to it. And I started to feel how strengthening it was, and also I started to love it, especially doing it in nature. And so I lead misogi, I do that. But I noticed during the pandemic, I'm like, okay, I need to increase my practice. And the cold water misogi has been like a special event or something in recent years. So I thought, okay, what if I just go back to like doing it every day, which I have not done since I was in my 20s. And if you do it in your shower, it's not nearly as beautiful as when you're outside in the mountains. It's really a discipline. So, and I love my hot showers. So I'm in my wonderful hot shower and like, okay, it's time, for cold water misogi. And so it's been a fantastic practice because in order to be natural, to be good and feel good in that cold water, you have to organize yourself totally different. You have to like have a center, and your ki has to be flowing, and it's a requirement. Otherwise you're just like, it's cold. So, so the other day, the point I want to make is, the other day, I thought, well, we're going to be doing this gratitude discussion. What if I do an intentional gratitude practice as I'm doing the cold water misogi, like really intentional gratitude? So, so I did, and I turned on that gratitude before the cold water, and it was so much easier. It was amazing, because gratitude is this stream. It's the stream of ki. It's like a stream of love. And boy, when the cold water hit, and I was just like, yes, this is beautiful. So
you go up to find a waterfall, or I mean, I've always seen pictures of you dashing into the sea with large groups of people.
Well, that's what I mean. That's when I've been doing misogi, and I do it by myself when I go to the mountains.
Right.
I go into the lake or the river and just do these purification practices. I love doing that, and you're absorbing just the pure energy of nature. I mean, it's the best. But the practice, but I felt like, okay, it's the pandemic. Times are hard. I need more practice. I need deeper practice. And so I've been expanding my practice in various ways. And then that's what I'm doing. Is like, it's actually right there, my shower. And it's not beautiful, but it is beautiful. The experience is beautiful of finding that place in myself where my spirit is flowing and open. And then the cold water, which you could think of as it is a gift, but you could experience it as adversity, shock, whatever, it's transformative to take that on as a misogi practice. And boy, it's been helping me. I feel stronger with it. So let me just encourage everyone, cold water misogi, along with gratitude.
That's a challenge. I'll report back. I'll ask next week, shall I? See how many people have tried.
Everybody I say this to smiles and laughs a little bit, and then they say, well, good luck with that. But I see someone here, Sean McCurdy, who's actually done a lot of cold water misogi, and I bet he would agree with me. Right, Sean?
Absolutely, Sensei.
Well said. Well said.
Tim, I just put it, we're laughing here because Alec and I, we lived and practiced, we did Aikido in Russia for 5 years, and in the depths of the Russian winters, the Russians love to go and just jump, into freezing cold lake. And of course we did it with them. It's snowdrift and everything. And it's incredibly invigorating. But the first couple of times that I did it, not consciously to do misogi practice, I thought, I'm mad. I am totally mad. It's minus 30 degrees out there. But it has an amazing result. And after you've done it for a couple of years, it doesn't feel such a shock anymore. It's nice. It's like having a bath.
And vodka after helps.
Yes, it does.
And my ancestry is Scandinavian, mostly Swedish and Norwegian. And of course, those Norse people are out, they're out there in the snow and cutting holes in the ice and, going in the water. So perhaps it's in my DNA, but
the Russians are exactly the same.
And then, I remember when I first started leading the cold water misogi, on the beach, and we do January 1st, and now we do it also in the summer in Santa Cruz. But, and I remember, anytime I would lead people who hadn't done it before, they would feel like they had to get sort of hyped up, be like, like that, like to face but the whole point really is to keep your center, right? And to have your ki flowing. So it's just, it's counterintuitive, but a beautiful experience. Anyway, it's related to gratitude, right? We took a little turn there into misogi.
We did, but it was related to gratitude, so that's all good. All right, so as we run up towards the hour, have you some suggestions for how we can practice gratitude more consciously within the dojo?
Well, are you in your dojos?
I'm looking at mine right now.
Yeah. Our dojos are shut here. We're in the dojo of life.
There are very few of us. I think Gordon's gone back to the mat, but most of us, and indeed Dimitra, I think, is also practicing. But most of us know. So we're talking about advice for when we hopefully resume some sort of normality.
My goodness. I mean, there's just so many ways. I think any way that we remember to bring gratitude, to bring it out a bit more is good. Just to bring it out a bit more. Like Ano Sensei says, okay, well, if people don't know that gratitude and love and harmony and so on are really important parts of Aikido, that's the teacher's responsibility. They should be teaching these things, so I think that teachers, you just have to have courage and actually say these things. It doesn't have to be complicated, just even as you are bowing in, or just even to mention when we bow to our partners, really find that sincere place in yourself. It's not just emotion, right? It's an emotion, it's a feeling. So to make your bows really sincere, onegai shimasu, and when you're bowing afterwards. So I think even simple things like that, can unlock this very natural experience and potential that, that we all have. And then, if there are ways you can either show in your own practice, or you can invoke someone else's practice. You can talk about O-sensei. You can, if you have an experience with someone who you were training with and really stimulated in you a sense of gratitude and appreciation, just to express those things, I think, can help to stimulate and unlock that experience inside everybody else.
Yeah. I think it's about creating a positive spiral rather than anything else. So if you start to do it, it's much easier to take the next step upwards.
Yeah, I think it's good to think simply, not like, how can I change everything? How can I have all the answers? But what can I do? What's a simple thing that I could do in myself, or maybe I can express, like as a teacher, I can express and, challenge or ask people to open that place in themselves in practice. And people will have their own experience then, and maybe even if people, sometimes you put things out in class and you get the sense like, people don't want to do it, or they're closed to it or something. It's important not to be discouraged by that kind of response, because you can't tell really what experience people are having inside, or what will happen over time, right? Sometimes people will just open to something, or they're really defensive about something, but like a couple months later or a year later, it's bearing fruit.
Yeah. Good advice. Final chance for people to ask a question or make a comment. Joanna.
Hi everyone. Hi Linda. So I'm from Brazil. Today is Teachers Day here. So my gratitude to be here and all of the teachers and learning with everyone. And my therapist, she sent me a text. I don't know if I'm translating it correctly, but it's about the beauty of learning from ourselves and our experiencing, and with the other ones that are together with us. So I think this is part of our practice. It's just learning with ourselves and learning to be in the company of each other. So my gratitude for that, and for being here to sharing with everyone and listening from everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Vitali next.
I just want, go ahead.
No, go on, Vitali.
I actually wanted to just, I noticed that on the screen, it says Tiger Aiki Frank. I believe you are coming in from Kenya, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, welcome. How wonderful you joined us. I'm grateful for Zoom that we're able to talk to you in Kenya.
Yeah, I'm grateful too to be here.
We don't do too badly. I think we've got Greece, Canada, America, the UK, Kenya. Who have I missed? Well, Luke's based in France, but he's Irish. I'm not quite sure which one he wants to claim there. And then Vitaly in Russia. Vitaly, go on. You wanted to say something.
Okay, anyway, I'm from Russia, but we don't practice snow jumping over here because I live in the south of Russia, so we don't practice this over here. So anyway, I just wanted so we're trying to put together the program for people with disabilities over here. So speaking about the feel of gratitude and all this stuff, it's really complicated to build this feeling, people who are physically challenged. It's really complicated for them. We have to build up this process little by little because it's really hard for them to get this feeling. Because as far as I feel, it's really hard to get the key flow without feeling of gratitude. Because whenever because maybe native speakers will correct me, but actually gratitude is given. So when you give something, you get back every time. So that's the way how Aikido works. So you have to give first, and then you get back. So that's what I feel. And so it's sometimes really complicated to explain people to give first before you take something. So that's all I wanted to add, and I wanted to say thank you for everything.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I love that about the importance of giving. Yeah.
Sure.
Sean, do you have something to say?
Yeah, in quarantine, I've been spending a lot of time doing my best to sort of look at O-sensei's Takemusu Aiki lectures, and something that was just said really resonated with that. And it's that O-sensei often uses the phrase sort of to offer your gratitude, not necessarily to give or to receive, but when he's talking about being stood upon the floating bridge of heaven, and when he's describing himself doing that, he says that he offers his gratitude, right? Or he offers his prayer in gratitude. And that's sort of half of his description. And so it's this, for me, this feeling of offering is less about sort of giving, sort of a transitive me give to something else, but just offering the feeling of gratitude in your body to everything. Because O-sensei makes it very clear that you must offer this to everything. That's the only way it works. So this just to change it from giving to the sort of offering the feeling in your body and the feeling of gratitude in your body to everything is what I've been reading in O-sensei's lectures. I'm sure that you all have read them too. So
yeah, and the offering, the giving and receiving and offering, it's kind of like on a spectrum, and I feel like you just come in on it in anywhere, right? So like that's what I mean about starting simple. I think because simple is right there, and then the feeling of you're offering your spirit to the universe is just fabulous. It's a fabulous feeling. And then but like that's not how you're feeling, right? Sometimes that's just not how you're feeling usually. And so we start simple, right? And then sometimes that offering feeling is there. And it's beautiful to have examples of how that is and to feel that with people, like O-sensei, or in my case I've really been inspired by Ano sensei. He just seems to be able to channel that feeling. He has that feeling and it's infectious in a good way.
What comes out of me from what the last two contributors gave was that it's an active practice. It's not something that's passive. You have to be active in the process. Liz, do you still want to offer something?
Yeah, just a couple of things. It's first of all, I find it really helpful listening to all this, and it's helped me organise my thoughts on this subject, because I've come across little bits of information about the importance of gratitude from lots of different sources. And tonight it's woven together into more of a cohesive whole for me. And it seems to be, it's very much about, well, I've read about it before, but there's a level of it where it's a really important driver in our human relationships. And there's another level where we're relating to the universe. And we're in this whole process of giving and receiving, and gratitude is part of the churn. And if you've got that openness and you've got that gratitude, the universe is in some way that we don't understand listening. And then if you send out those sort of positive things, how it comes back. Yeah. So that's just where, sorry, am I speaking? That's just where it seems to be. It's where a lot of people seem to be talking about it in all their different ways. And just a last personal comment from me. Thank you so much for talking earlier about the importance of practice to supporting people who are political activists, because I am a political activist and it's tough. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Liz. And Liz, where are you?
We're based in Berkshire in England. So we live on the beautiful Berkshire Downs. We're racehorse country here. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that. There's a pretty famous quote of O Sensei, which I love. This is in English and I didn't translate it, so I actually don't know the original, but it's when you bow to the universe, it bows back.
Yeah.
When you bow to the universe, it bows back. So like when you're saying in some way that maybe we don't understand, or it's not necessary that we understand, you know, the universe is listening, like what you were saying. And there's obviously, just on a more kind of a different level, kind of interpersonal level, you know, what we put out has an effect, right? What we put out has an effect. And it isn't a one-to-one, like we can control everything by what we put out. And yet we can step back and go, yeah, what I put out, you know, has an effect with what I experience on a like interpersonal level. So we can, that's something we, in like, I guess I keep saying this, that it's, I feel in my own life, it's important for me to have a simple practice, right? And it's of course connected to and leads me to deep and exalted practice. But, you know, I need to live it, right? And for me, that it's really helpful when I find simple ways of doing that.
Thank you.
That sounds like...
I'd like to say something.
Go on, Dimitra.
Yes, I'm very glad that Linda mentioned she talked about Kotodama, because it's a very ancient and beautiful Japanese practice that O-sensei used a lot, as it is known, and it's almost becoming extinct in most Western dojos. I think it's a beautiful practice because sound creates vibration. Kotodama creates vibrations that affect the body and can have the ability to calm the mind and bring the mind and the body into a certain resonance that can be helpful for the practice. So I think this is something that to think about, like using Kotodama in dojos.
You know what I'm doing these days? Many things to try to keep my dojo alive and, you know, make a contribution in the Aikido community. But so I'm teaching on Zoom, and I teach 3 mornings a week. I do a misogi class. It's just a half an hour, and sometimes we do kototama chanting or different things as a part of that. And we also do the Shinkokyu practice, the movement and meditation practice that the Kumano teachers, you know, learned through O-sensei. And so boy, it really like makes a difference just to take that. It changes, like you were saying, it changes your energy, you know, to do a misogi practice or to do a chanting practice. And does bring, you know, it helps us all. It brings this energy 3 times a week. We do it in California. It's in the morning. By the way, you're all welcome to join in. But, you know, it's a beautiful thing that it actually changes the feeling that we have, and then we can go into the rest of our day, you know, with that. Yeah. Oh, and I do want to just invite any of you, if you're at all interested, you're welcome. You can visit, you know, the online classes that we're doing in Santa Cruz. You can, you know, find it on our dojo website, and you know, there's a little sign up thing there where you can sign up for it, and then you have access, and that would be lovely. And I also let me just throw this in here is. We're doing a autumn Aikido retreat. It's online. It's two half days, and it's October 24th and 25th. I decided to co-teach this retreat with not the people I usually do, which is senior teachers in Aikido, but I've reached out to a couple of younger teachers in Aikido. Tesfai Tekalu, who's from Ethiopia and lives in California now, and also Nico Secunda, they're both in their 30s. Nico is a longtime student of mine. And we're gonna we're gonna do a lot of movement, and hopefully it will be energizing and uplift people's spirits together. And we're calling it Moving in Harmony. And I would love it if any of you would come. So just want to let you know. And you can find it on Facebook. You can find it on my dojo website. So that's my commercial. October 24th and 25th, the Autumn Aikido Retreat.
Wonderful. So it's my turn to offer my gratitude for you for coming and sharing what you have with us, Linda. I think it's been much appreciated. I try to make these sessions explore things that maybe get missed on the mat, and you know, you've done a wonderful job on this particular topic. But I want to thank you all. I am incredibly grateful to all of you guys and girls who keep showing up at this place and making these sessions so rich. Really, you do. You make it so rich, and the community we're building is yeah, it's pretty special, actually. So I don't want to, you know, I'm not being funny. I really am grateful for you all being here. So thank you.
Thank you, Quentin. I'm grateful for our friendship. I've just enjoyed you ever since I first met you, and you know, in England and in the United States. I can't wait till we can, you know, be in person together again. But meanwhile, it's really wonderful to encounter you and connect with you online. And thank you for all the work, you know, the service that you've been doing for the Aikido community. I think all of this really helps. Thank you so much.
Goes both ways.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Quinta. Thank you, Linda.
See you all next week.
Thank you very much. Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quentin, thank you.
Bye,
Linda.
How wonderful to see you after all these years. It's been a while, 5 years or something. I think
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah.
Has been a while.
Yeah.
Oh, a lovely session. Thank you. You know, powerful.